Hashtag the science of learning, how memory actually works. Imagine sitting down for a major exam, flipping through questions you studied for hours, and drawing a complete blank. The information is gone, vanished like it was never there. But here's what's strange: 3 days later, completely unprompted, the answer pops into your head perfectly. Where did it go? Where did it come from? And more importantly, why does memory behave this way? The answer lies deep inside your brain, and understanding it could permanently change how you learn, study, and retain information for the rest of your life. Memory is not a single thing. Most people imagine memory as a kind of mental filing cabinet. You experience something, it gets filed away, and you retrieve it later. That mental model feels intuitive, but neuroscience tells us it is almost entirely wrong. Memory is not a storage system. It is a reconstruction system. Every single time you remember something, your brain is actively rebuilding that memory from scattered fragments stored across different regions of your cortex. This is why memories distort over time, why eyewitness testimony is notoriously unreliable, and why two people can experience the same event and walk away with genuinely different recollections. Your brain is not a camera. It is a storyteller. So how does learning actually begin? It starts with attention. Before any information can enter your memory system, it must pass through a narrow gateway called working memory. Think of working memory as your brain's mental whiteboard. It holds information temporarily while you actively process it. The research of cognitive psychologist George Miller in 1956 established that working memory can hold approximately 7 items at once, plus or minus 2. More recent research by Nelson Cowan suggests the actual limit may be even smaller, closer to 4 chunks of information at a time. This is why phone numbers were originally designed to be 7 digits. It is not arbitrary, it mirrors the biological limit of what your working memory can comfortably hold. When information sits in working memory, one of 2 things happens. Either it fades away within about 15 to 30 seconds, or it gets consolidated and transferred into long-term memory. This transfer process is called encoding, and the quality of that encoding determines everything about how well you will remember something later. Shallow encoding, simply reading words on a page without engaging deeply, produces weak, fragile memories. Deep encoding, connecting new information to existing knowledge, generating examples, asking questions, and emotionally engaging with the material, produces strong, durable memories. This distinction alone explains why highlighting textbooks is largely ineffective while teaching someone else what you learned is extraordinarily powerful. Long-term memory itself is divided into several distinct systems. Declarative memory, also called explicit memory, handles facts and events. Within declarative memory, there are 2 subtypes. Semantic memory stores general knowledge, facts like the capital of France or the formula for water. Episodic memory stores personal experiences, specific events tied to a time and place in your life. Then there is procedural memory, also called implicit memory, which handles skills and habits. Riding a bike, typing on a keyboard, swinging a golf club, these live in procedural memory and operate largely beneath conscious awareness. Understanding these distinctions matters because different types of knowledge require different study strategies. Now let us talk about the biological mechanics of memory formation. When you learn something new, neurons in your brain fire together in coordinated patterns. The famous principle in neuroscience, coined by Donald Hebb in 1949, states that neurons that fire together wire together. Each time those same neurons activate in the same pattern, the synaptic connections between them grow stronger. This process, called long-term potentiation, is the physical foundation of learning. Your brain literally changes its physical structure every time you form a new memory. The hippocampus, a seahorse-shaped structure buried deep in your temporal lobe, plays a critical role in consolidating new declarative memories and transferring them into long-term storage, often during sleep. Sleep is not passive rest. It is active memory consolidation. During slow-wave sleep, your hippocampus replays experiences from the day, essentially rehearsing them to strengthen the associated neural pathways. During REM sleep, your brain makes creative connections between newly learned information and existing knowledge. Studies from Harvard Medical School have shown that students who sleep for 8 hours after studying perform significantly better on tests than those who stay awake to cram. Pulling an all-nighter does not just leave you tired, it actively undermines the consolidation process that transforms learning into lasting memory. Understanding why we forget is just as important as understanding how we remember. In 1885, German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus conducted groundbreaking experiments on himself, memorizing lists of nonsense syllables and testing his own recall at various intervals. What he discovered became known as the forgetting curve, a steep, exponential decline in memory retention over time. Within 1 hour of learning something new, people forget approximately 50%. Within 24 hours, that number climbs to 70%. By the end of a week, roughly 90% is gone if no review takes place. These are not small losses. This is catastrophic forgetting, and it is the default state of human memory. But Ebbinghaus also discovered the solution. Every time you review information just before you are about to forget it, you interrupt the forgetting curve and rebuild the memory stronger. Each subsequent review requires a longer interval before the next one because the memory has grown more robust. This technique is called spaced repetition, and it is arguably the most powerful learning tool ever scientifically validated. Flashcard apps like Anki use algorithms based directly on Ebbinghaus's findings to schedule reviews at precisely the right intervals. Students using spaced repetition consistently outperform those using traditional study methods by significant margins across hundreds of peer-reviewed studies. Closely related is the concept of retrieval practice, also known as the testing effect. Research conducted by Henry Roediger and Jeffrey Karpik at Washington University demonstrated that actively recalling information from memory produces dramatically better long-term retention than rereading the same material multiple times. When you retrieve a memory, you are not just accessing it, you are actively strengthening and updating the neural pathways associated with it. The struggle to recall information, even when it feels frustrating, is precisely what makes learning durable. This explains why practice tests are more effective than rereading notes and why flashcards beat highlighting every single time. Another critical factor in memory is emotion. The amygdala, your brain's emotional processing center, sits directly adjacent to the hippocampus. When you experience something emotionally significant, whether exciting, frightening, surprising, or deeply meaningful, the amygdala signals the hippocampus to encode that experience with high priority. This is why you can probably remember exactly where you were when you heard shocking news, even years later, but cannot remember what you had for lunch 2 Thursdays ago. Emotional arousal literally tags certain memories as important and makes them more resistant to forgetting. Educators and learners who can connect material to genuine curiosity, real-world relevance, or personal meaning will always have a significant retention advantage. Context and state-dependent memory add another fascinating layer to this picture. Numerous studies have shown that people recall information more accurately when they are in the same physical environment and emotional state as when they originally learned it. This is called context-dependent memory, and it has practical implications. Studying in a variety of environments rather than always at the same desk reduces your reliance on environmental cues for recall, making your memory more flexible and robust. Varying your study locations, even slightly, has been shown to improve overall retention by forcing your brain to encode the information independent of any single context. Interleaving is another counterintuitive but powerful strategy. Most people study by blocking, finishing all of one topic before moving to the next. Research by Robert Bjork at UCLA shows that interleaving different subjects or problem types during a single study session, while initially more difficult and frustrating, produces significantly stronger long-term learning than blocked practice. The difficulty itself is the mechanism. When your brain has to work harder to distinguish between concepts, it encodes each one more distinctly and durably.